Though reputed a victory for the Allies, the slaughter in this battle was so great that many here, especially the Tories, are demanding peace. The Whigs still rule the council, much to the Queen's displeasure. And although forced to dismiss Mr. Harley, it is rumoured that she sees him often in secret and takes his counsel in all things.
Captain General for life? The Duke asks you for that? Have you answered him?
Not yet.
Good. Good. What reason does he give?
That by showing him this mark of my favour, the alliance will be strengthened, that the army's success depends on the permanence of the command.
Well, madam, I pray we're to have no more such victories as Malplaquet.
Truly, I long to see an end to bloodshed.
Yet Marlborough thrives on it. Questionless, he prolongs the war for his own advantage. And if you should agree to this new demand...
You advise me to refuse it?
Madam, you have the wisdom to decide for yourself.
And the right to do so.
Indeed. But I am astonished. I mean, was there ever so arrogant a subject as this general?
Only one, I think.
Yes, on the distaff side. I'm in no position to advise you, but a warning may not come amiss. Here is a man already wielding vast powers, yet he seeks more. I mean, look how he courts the common folk and the soldiers. The Whigs support him. The dissenting Republicans see in him a rival to your authority.
A rival? To me?
Scratch at the centre, madam, and you'll find a round head. I thank you. I catch a smell, as yet the merest whiff, of a plot to set up a new Cromwell.
Whatever his faults, I'll not believe that of him.
No, not him, nay. He's admirers, though.
Sunderland.
And Godolphin.
Yes, they shall go.
Admirable. But if I may suggest, not quite yet. Leave it till before the election next year, and I'll warrant you a parliament of good, honest Tories. Then, madam, you shall be queen indeed.
I think you fail to understand. What may seem a trivial matter to you is of the first importance to a commander-in-chief. I'll say nothing of my own request. Many thought it unwise.
I did, certainly. You gave your enemies a cudgel to beat you with.
And much joy when it was refused.
Very well, though it would have been to the Queen's advantage. But now, and I repeat, this is not trivial, appointments are made in the army without my approval. Earl Rivers is to be made Constable of the Tower, and I'm ordered to give a regiment to a certain Mr. Hill.
Abigail Masham's brother. Damned ungrateful rogue.
Yes, Harley's doing, of course.
And Abigail's.
Yes, well, I see the intended insult, of course, but why is it so important?
Because he's a junior officer and known to be incompetent. Promote him over his seniors and you sow discontent in the army. If I agree, my authority will at once be in question. The French will hear soon enough and be much comforted.
And if my lord should refuse? Here is an excellent pretext for complaints, that the Queen is but a cipher, unable to advance her own service.
Well, I spoke with the Queen and told her that I would not give the Oxford regiment to Mr. Hill. She refused to hear any argument. So, I've writ her this letter, which I desire you to see first. In it, I offer the Queen two alternatives, and I scarcely think...
Oh, no, John. Madam, I ask you to part with the service of Mistress Masham, or to allow me to resign my offices. You know, this goes much farther than you need.
I think not.
Oh, you drive her into a corner. Suppose she chooses Masham, and she might.
That is the issue.
Then I resign.
I know not whether all my colleagues will support you.
But they must, because this is the time to strike.
I beg you not to forget the election. If you lose this chance, you may not get another. Since Malplaquet, where they fought so well, the French have recovered their spirit and the will to go on. For one more campaign, I can hold the army and the Allies together, but after that...
You know, John, by this threat you venture too much. I'll take it out, and the letter will do very well. The Queen will agree to drop Hill.
Yes, and I have a thought. If it should come to her ears that we intend to bring this up in Parliament, I mean, by addressing her publicly to dismiss Masham.
That would mortify her beyond forgiveness.
Precisely. So alter the letter. We daren't risk losing you.
Very well. Give it me. I'll write another, more moderate.
Good. Then you shall have our complete support.
But Masham will stay, and you will all live to repent it.
How are you, Mamma?
Dear child. In good health and low spirits. Do you come for your husband?
Yes. Charles, I've been waiting in the carriage this half hour. Will you go now?
My dear, of course.
Charles.
Excuse me, sirs, but we dine at 4 with a lady that hates to be kept waiting.
Summers, we have room in the coach? Yes?
Oh, thank you. I'll walk with Godolphin. Let's have
Well, 4 great lords in solemn conclave, all debating how best to dispose of one impudent chamberwoman.
After 8 hard campaigns, after 27 years of your most faithful service.
Now, since a 12 months, she's refused to speak with me alone. But she shall see me, then I shall speak. I shall write now, requesting a private audience.
No. I advise against it.
It is not so long since there were tears and lamentations of Mrs. Morley passed one day without a letter from her dear Mrs. Freeman. Is all that to be forgotten so easily?
It is forgotten. Mrs. Morley is dead.
I'll not believe it. I'll not believe it. If only I could speak with her.
No. Better not. Now, my dear soul, listen. Don't write. And above all, don't complain, however you may be used. When you see her, as you must in your duties, be cold and formal as she is, but correct. The appointments you hold are important, politically and for my credit in Europe. Don't give her any pretext to dismiss you.
She wouldn't dare.
In a rage, she might, though to her own detriment. But, Sarah, I'm pledged to serve her, and I will so long as she permits me. So I beg you, don't do anything to make my burden heavier than it is.
I am at a loss to know, and always shall be, why you chose to make such a pother about so trivial an affair. However, you should know I have considered it deeply. I am now resolved not to insist on the appointment of Mr. Hill.
I am obliged, Your Majesty. My concern was only for the good of your service.
So I have always thought. You leave soon for Holland?
Next week.
Then pray oblige me further. I commanded you to a private audience because of another matter. Yesterday I was favoured with a long letter from your wife. In it I am taken to task for many things.
If my wife presumes...
She does presume.
Only because of her love for you and the long friendship between you.
She writes of that. She goes on to reproach me for listening to slanderous tales put about by her enemies. She ends by demanding to see me in private.
You mean to agree?
No. You are to tell her that. You may add that in public I shall always use her with the courtesy due to my groom of the stole and to the wife of the Duke of Marlborough.
Excuse me, madam.
Yes, Abigail.
I'm told, madam, that Her Grace is still waiting in the anteroom. Indeed, she appears to intend waiting there forever.
You advise me to see her?
Why, yes, madam. If only for the last time.
What am I to say?
As little as possible. The clue lies there. She says she desires no answer. I suggest you give her none.
Very well. If it must be. Tell the page I will see her Grace presently.
Then, madam, I shall bid you good night.
I am grateful to your Majesty for allowing me to come.
There was no need for it. I was just going to write to you.
I shall not keep you long, but some things have to be spoken. I do assure you I've no desire to cause you uneasiness.
Whatever you have to say, you may put in writing.
Since you were Queen, you have never refused to hear anybody, not the meanest of your subjects. Am I to be forbidden so small a favour?
Whatever you have to say, you may put in writing.
I have done that, and if need be, I will do it again. Many letters have passed between us. I have boxes full of them. Letters that prove your friendship and affection for me over nearly 30 years. But now, when I beg you to listen...
Whatever you have to say...
No, you shall hear me. There are people around you. I'll not trouble you by mentioning their names. People who pretend that I have said scandalous things about you. And they've made you believe it. I swear, I never spoke of you in public or in private without respect. I could no more do that than kill my own children.
Without doubt. Many lies are told.
Then what are they? Tell me what crime I'm accused of. Well, if I am to defend myself and you'll not deny me that, I must be told. The worst criminal has that right, at least. So tell me, and then judge. If I am guilty, it will appear quick enough. And if I'm innocent, it gives me my only method of clearing myself.
I'll give you no answer. You said yourself you desired no answer. You desired no answer. You shall have none.
If you think I have come to solicit your favour, you are mistaken. I know only too well that's gone forever. But God knows, madam, I have loved you, and have thought of nothing but your interests every day of your life. Does this count for nothing? Over and over again you have begged me always to speak my mind freely. Have I ever told you one lie? If I have offended sometimes by pressing too strongly, don't you know? Don't you know that it was only for your service and security?
You desired no answer. You shall have none.
Is that all you can say?
You desired no...
For Christ Jesus' sake! I beseech you. I beseech you. What is my offence?
I'll give you no answer.
Inhuman. his justice and you refuse me. I pray God you may suffer for it.
Well, if I do, that shall be to myself.
No. She has not seen the Queen since that night, and I doubt whether she ever will again, at court or in private.
Naturally, while she still holds her appointments. Has the Queen said anything of them?
I did hint, oh, very delicately about the subject. Nothing will be done yet.
Why not?
We should be very careful. Until peace is assured, we need the Duke in command of the army. See, a private quarrel is one thing. He'll stomach that if he must, but not a public disgrace.
But when it does come about, my dear wife...
Oh, no, no, I pray you.
Among friends, Abigail. Among friends.
You intrigue me, Masham.
Well, a firm promise, no less, to be keeper of the privy purse.
My compliments, madam. And groom of the stole?
No, that is reserved for Her Grace of Somerset.
Making Somerset entirely one of us. Well, now for the next step. The easiest of all, since Her Majesty already hates the sight of him.
Sunderland?
At your Majesty's command, I have today yielded up the seals of my office and come to bid you farewell.
I thank you. In recognition of your services, I propose to award you a pension of £3,000 a year.
Your Majesty is extremely generous. But if I cannot have the honor of serving my country, I will not plunder it.
Well, madam, by that action you tell the whole world the Duke of Marlborough no longer has your confidence.
Yes, but remember the political situation.
I'm a soldier, that's all. A plain soldier, John. I've never meddled with politics. I never will, please God. All the politicians in England put together are worth less than one corporal in the Foot Guards. And as for Sunderland being... I don't like him. I suspect you don't either. But no matter, he's your son-in-law. And for that reason alone, but the fellow's committed no crime, I believe. He's turned out of office. And who turns him out? A scheming bitch. A parcel of bloody rogues. Oh, I'll hear nothing against the Queen, but that man...
Sit down, Charles, for this is the Queen's doing.
Well, if it is, they've driven her mad between them. Oh, you take my advice, you'll offer to resign. Oh, that'll frighten them, by God. They daren't let you go. So resign. Be damned to them.
Yes, as a general officer, you may do that, Churchill. Both you and I have some freedom of action, but your corporal of foot has not. As for the commander-in-chief...
Well, if I commanded only at home, I'd quit tomorrow and be thankful for it. But, Charles, here are letters. One signed by all the Whig lords.
Damn the Whig lords.
They're still the government. They urge me by all that's dear to me to stay with the army. This we look upon as the most necessary step to prevent the dissolution of Parliament. They fear that, and with good reason. One from the King of Prussia, another from Hanover. Now, Charles, in the face of all this, what am I to do?
Your duty, I suppose, like the rest of us. Until that pack of dogs in London feels strong enough to hunt you down.
We'll see about that. But first, I think they have another quarry in view.
The uneasiness which you have showed for some time has given me very much trouble, though I have borne it. And had your behavior continued the same as it was for a few years after my coming to the crown, I could have no dispute with myself what to do. But the many unkind returns I have received since makes it impossible for you to continue any longer in my service. I will give you a pension of 4,000 a year, and I desire that, instead of bringing the staff to me, you will break it, which I believe will be easier to us both.
So, I am resolved to comply with the desire of the Lords. But I am in no way convinced that my continuing will save the Parliament, for Mr. Harley and his friends know the whole depends on that. For God's sake, let me beg you to be careful of your behavior, for you are in a country amongst tigers and wolves. Keep your temper, and if Parliament continues, we will make some of their hearts ache.
Ah, madam. Your Grace's humble servant.
Good morning, Sir John.
You received my letter?
That is why I am here.
To see for yourself.
Exactly. You tell me the work is interrupted. I've seen that.
Because of money owing to the workmen. I mean, Strong the mason alone is owed £10,000.
I know.
Now, madam, this must be distressing to any gentle heart
You are
I
not
know.
speaking to my daughter, sir. Pray, come to the point.
Willingly. Since the Lord Treasurer's disgrace, the
You
Treasurer...
mean, I think, his shameful dismissal.
Well, if you prefer it. Since his shameful dismissal, the Treasury has been put into commission. The commissioners have stopped forthwith all payments for Blenheim.
Do you take me for a fool?
Oh, madam.
Mr. Harley is now Chancellor of the Exchequer. Mr. Harley rules the commissioners. Mr. Harley has stopped the payments.
Madam, I don't care one groat who stopped them. But I will tell you this. If the building does not go on regularly, not only the workmen, but the fabric itself will suffer. Injury, madam, and damage through neglect and the weather. Now, the Duke's mind is very much set on this house. He's told me so himself a dozen times.
What is it you desire?
A letter, madam, that is all. A letter stating that no matter what happens, the workmen shall not suffer.
I wish they need not.
Well, then.
And let me tell you, I wish also that this great heap of stones had never begun.
Excellent news, excellent. I'm deeply obliged to you both. Come to me early tomorrow, I pray you. There's much to be done.
At 7, madam.
I thank your Grace. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, madam.
Oh, a great victory, I believe, at the election for the church party, yes. Oh, think of it. The Whigs have lost over 100 seats. At long last, I have a loyal House of Commons.
Thanks to Mr. Harley.
Yes. He shall be Lord Treasurer. Mr. St. John, Secretary of State. And you, Abigail, you too shall have your reward. And very soon, I promise you.
Now, truly, madam, in Mr. Harley's words, you are queen indeed.
Come, Chicky.
Your Grace has an audience, I believe.
At 10.
Her Majesty is fatigued and desires it to be a short one.
She's requested us to speak to you briefly beforehand.
I'm at your service. Who is to speak first?
I am, sir. The Queen has agreed to your commanding the army in the next campaign. It's therefore our duty to support you to the utmost.
And we shall depend upon it.
But for your part, you are to remember that we are now the government. Your instructions from the Queen will come to you through us. She expects you to obey them.
A soldier may do no less. Have you instructions for me?
I am here only to conduct you to the Queen.
Very well, gentlemen. If I consent to serve the Queen, you may be assured I shall, as always, do my duty.
If you don't, sir, remember this. When you leave the Queen's service and her protection, matters can be raised against you which no victories can varnish over.
You keep strange company these days. Am I not to have a private audience?
No, sir.
Then, madam, the Duke and Duchess of Somerset may hear things you'd prefer them not to.
Pray leave us.
Your Majesty told me plainly not an hour since.
I have changed my mind.
My wife sent your Majesty a letter.
I have read it.
A most humble and contrite letter, in which she asks your pardon for all offences you think her guilty of. She besought you not to insist that she resign her appointments. Do you know why she made this submission?
I suppose because she desires to retain them.
She's long been weary of such honours.
And she has her remedy.
No, madam. Her appeal was not for herself, but for me. You ask me to continue as Captain General, but at the same time you propose to disgrace my wife.
Resignation is not a disgrace.
She believes, I think rightly, that by this action you diminish my authority with the army and damage my credit abroad. Surely this cannot be your intention.
I cannot change my resolution.
Then 1 year, I beg you. Just this year. One more campaign may see the end of the war, when we can both seek honourable retirement.
It is for my honour your wife must resign. Pray instruct her to deliver up her gold key within 3 days.
3 days. Do you hate her so much? 3 days after 30 years?
I am resolved.
Then at least allow her a month to arrange matters.
2 days, sir. 2 days only.
I am ashamed, madam. And you ought to be. You shall know shortly whether I am able to continue in your service.
Vexed? Vexed, certainly not. Nothing they do at that court can vex me or indeed surprise me. All I can look for now is scorn and contempt. But for you to be so humbled as to beg that woman's favour, when I think how every prince in Europe is ready to kiss your hand, while at home they try to mortify you beyond endurance.
Well, none of that matters. I hope for only 2 things. A good peace for England, and the Protestant succession assured. But, Sarah, I'm tired. For the first time. Too weary, I think, to go on.
Give them best? Never. John, the Tories in Parliament are hot for peace, and they'll have it, even if they betray the alliance. But worse, many of them are Jacobites. St. John puts himself at their head. That man has talent, and the will to be dangerous. He'd bring over the Pretender tomorrow.
Harley won't let him.
Oh, Harley would sacrifice anybody to his own ambition. Anybody. Even the Queen. But so long as you command the army, they can do nothing. Above all, the Prince of Hanover depends upon you for the succession, so you must go on.
I was already determined to do so, if you would allow it.
And as for this, 2 days, she said. 2 days. Take it today. Give it to anyone you like. The Queen, Her Grace of Somerset, the first whore you meet in the street.
Nay, I swear it. That is what I'm told. He claims Bouchain as his finest victory.
The forcing of some defences and the capture of one small fortress. This is only to enlarge his reputation.
I know as little of war as either of you do, but Marshal Villars did swear his lines were invincible.
It seems they were not.
Well, victory or no, he'll never win another.
Ah, madam. Before you go to council, a word, if we may.
Willingly, sir. About the peace.
It will be discussed in council, though I may tell you now our negotiations with the French are far advanced.
So far, indeed, that they can be kept secret no longer.
We feel the whole cabinet should now be told.
Oh, is that wise?
And nobody else.
Oh.
The Allies must know nothing. In due course, King Louis and you, madam, will together present them with a fait accompli. The Dutch will complain, but they'll agree to a conference and draw the rest in.
But there is one matter to be settled. The conference will take months, a year maybe. And during that time, the armies will keep the field.
Though by agreement both our forces and the French shall be restrained from any offensive action.
In 1712, madam, the armies may march till they drop, but they shall not fight.
Do you follow what that means?
I believe so, but can this be done? This new victory?
Forgotten, I'll warrant, before the month is out. One thing is sure. Our Duke will never consent to restraint in his action.
So we have put it in your power to remove him.
How?
By a most strict inquisition into his accounts. No man ever loved money more, as all the world knows. And few ever amass so much.
A great deal of it by putting public funds into his own pocket.
Can this be proven?
The Commons will find it so when they read the Commission's report. Your faithful Tories, madam, have no love for the General.
The next step is a motion of censure, which the House will vote upon.
And pass.
I dare say. Yes, I dare say they will.
What then, sir? Will they impeach him before the Lords? Because if so, I am not sure.
Most unlikely. And for your purpose, unnecessary. The vote of censure is enough. On this, you may dismiss him.
Pending further investigation, which we need not pursue.
My lord, what think you of this?
As I've already told these gentlemen, I do not like it at all.
Then?
But, madam, Marlborough will oppose any private treaty with the French. He will not be restrained in the field, so he must go. If that is the only way to gain the peace.
Peace. Yes. Very well.
So the Commons voted for the peace proposals. Good.
The Lords were against. By a small majority.
Then we lose.
A moment, sir. Harley persuaded the Queen to create 12 new peers. Among them, Mistress Masham's husband. The measure was passed. The same day, the Gazette published an announcement. The Captain General is dismissed from all his offices.
Is it true? Marlborough gone. Then by God's mercy and the rage of 3 jealous women, we have been given all we could desire.
No, but I insist. This is no way for a lively young gallant to spend the time. Just as soon as you are fit for the journey, you shall come to town. Now, Francis, support me in this.
Oh, by all means. Your old gaming friends pine to take your money from you.
My old friends have richer geese to pluck. Not that I've ever played for more than I could afford, so at least your inheritance is safe, small though it be. I'd hoped it might be more. Only the Queen.
Do you tell me your pension is still unpaid?
Not 1 penny of it from the day I left my office.
After her promise. Monstrous. Has she not been reminded?
Not by me.
Too proud. Too proud. I've a mind to make Francis right.
No, I forbid it. I won't have you
Be easy, sir. No one will write.
I still believe.
No.
Well, no matter. We must go now.
It's a short visit. Won't you stay and see your parents? They'll be home any moment.
I think not. Pray give Papa my love.
And your mamma?
Mamma, I'm pleased to see you look so well. I'm pleased to see you at all.
Sarah.
There.
Oh, how very kind.
Ungrateful child.
Oblige me, Sarah. Say no more.
Well, at least she loves you, and for that I can forgive her much. How do you today? Hmm?
No worse. I walked a little. And I thought a great deal. Where's John?
I'm here.
Ah.
The final report of the Accounts Commission.
Well?
What I expected. The government pressed them hard to find an instance any instance of my taking bribes on the sale of places in the army. Their last hope to impeach me.
Nothing?
The army records for the last 10 years were ransacked,
With a will, I'll be bound.
but without avail.
Now, see how their malice defeats itself. All they've done is to prove you incorrupt and incorruptible.
There now, my dear soul.
John, as I've told Sarah, I've been thinking. You and she must go abroad, into Europe.
To leave you here?
I go on a longer journey.
No.
Why, yes. Now, listen. The Queen cannot live long. When she dies, or even before, the struggle for the succession will be violent. The High Tories under St. John will declare for the Pretender, and for all we know, the Queen is of their persuasion. Civil war, John, is at least possible.
And I should be here.
Not so. Travel, as they say, for your health. Go to Holland and Germany. But keep in close touch with Hanover and bide your time. For when the moment comes, you will be free to strike hard, with all Protestant Europe behind you.
John?
It's wise counsel, I believe.
Then I pray you, accept of it. Don't wait for peace. For in England, that will be the signal for bitter and bloody strife.
And I would ask your majesty if we may now proceed to business in the absence of the Lord Treasurer. I know not the reason for his absence. Perhaps he has not yet dined. Perhaps he still dines. It may even be that he has dined. I was about to say he may have dined too well. But, now that he is here...
You may proceed.
I desire to raise the matter of the Electoral Prince of Hanover, who your majesty recently honoured with the title Duke of Cambridge.
That matter is not in the day's business.
I will allow it.
I thank your majesty. Are you aware, madam, that certain lords, including the Lord Treasurer, have invited the Prince of Hanover to England?
Is this true?
True, madam, yes, though I had no hand in it.
This was done without consulting me.
By the law, as Duke of Cambridge, he has the right...
He has no rights in this kingdom. Not yet.
Your Majesty's pardon, he has one right, to take his seat in the House of Lords.
As long as I live, the Prince of Hanover shall not come to England.
Then may I suggest that the Lord Treasurer be instructed to write and tell him so?
That man is a Jacobite and a traitor. He's deep in every plot to bring over the Pretender. And not as your successor. Oh, no, madam, but to replace you, now, with that misbegotten papist.
Silence, sir. You are offensive.
Am I, madam? Am I? Papist we know he is. Misbegotten? Well, you yourself have said as much.
Be silent, I said. Say no more to me on any subject. However, my Lord, forgive me, I'm ill.
We are then agreed. The act of settlement shall be followed, and that the Elector of Hanover proclaimed king.
Agreed.
And that his Grace of Shrewsbury.
Will you come now, my lords?
Very well, I'll accept. But only if the Queen herself gives it to me.
Your Majesty. Your Majesty.
Madam, do you recognize the Duke of Somerset?
And you know this gentleman?
Duke of Shrewsbury.
And do you then give him the white staff?
Willingly. Use it for the good of my people.
Good night.
Many respects, my dear sir.
Toast to you, John, on your birthday.
Captain General. And the Duchess. No heel taps.
My thanks, gentlemen.
And mine. Now I pray you, my lord is fatigued.
Oh, dear.
I must go to bed.
Good night, sir.
Shall I ever see it finished?
Not if Vanbrugh has his way, but if he doesn't complete it, I shall. Though I should have so high an opinion of that monstrous...
I love to see the walls go up. In my time, I've seen so many of them battered down.
And by your own orders, too. I was in Woodstock today and met an old soldier, one of yours. He told me he was at Blenheim, Ramillies, wounded at Malplaquet, and again at Boucher. Perhaps half of it was true. I gave him a guinea, and do you know what he said?
Well, how should I know?
He said, "My respects to Corporal John." Well, I never knew they called you that.
Well, you don't know everything, even though you think you do.
Corporal John.
Well, Sarah, that was once a man.